Awesome, cool. So what up, y'all? What's good, familia? It's so good to be here today to talk for an hour and 30 and hang out with y'all and hear what y'all have to say and what y'all write today for today's theme on hauntings and celebrations of the homeland through the use of poetry. Before I get rolling here, I do want to say thank you to our wonderful publisher, co-founder of Nautical. Shout out to Daniel for offering and inviting me to do this. I also want to say thank you to y'all that are zooming in today to remind ourselves that nothing, or to know that nothing's more powerful than putting pen to paper to dismantle fear during a time of fear, and y'all wanting to stay connected. And so thank you for staying connected. Y'all that have Venmo'd funds and been super generous, thank you. It was super powerful or empowering to tell my family, like, yeah, go get groceries, I got you. So it was super, super nice to have the opportunity to do that. So thank you all for being here and donating. I guess the way we'll lay out workshop is I'm gonna talk a little bit about homeland, get us rolling on that in a second, and then throwing out a couple prompts for us to think about how we navigate through space. Anywhere in between conversation, if y'all have questions or need me to repeat anything or I get cut off, let me know in the chat box, or if Daniel catches it, he can chime in and add to that conversation. So y'all good? Y'all ready to start? We got virtual thumbs ups. Dope. Okay, cool. So what I want us to think about today, before I jump into like the essential theme, is I want us to think about poetry as an invitation to tell a story. So I don't want you to stress on thinking of poetry as what it should look like or what it should sound like, but I want poetry to be kind of the invitation to be in an intimate space where you're telling us something through language that could be transmitted to others, not as information, but as at its most irreducible act. So irreducible, saying that your language is so concise or so image driven that it can't boil down to anything further. It is the truth at its essence. So if y'all been following Not a Cult's workshop series, I think everything's been laid out really nice, where Edwin talked about specific language and language that honors an experience or an emotional experience. Jessica Salgado on Wednesday talked about how to build a poem similar to the metaphor of how to use how a flower blossoms. You plant it into the ground, it blooms, and you watch it give joy to the world, right? Or it tells a story. So I want us to use all of those devices, and those of you that haven't been into those workshops, but to think about how we can tell a story with things that have been familiar to us. So our jump into that is we're gonna write for about 5 to 6 minutes, and I want y'all to do 2 things for me, okay? So you can do this as a free write, you can do a list, or hell, if you want to write a poem, y'all go in and write a poem, okay? But I want you to create a definition for 2 things. For you, what is the definition of home? And what is the definition of homeland, okay? So again, y'all can write this as a list, a free write, just keep writing till we hit stop, or y'all can start writing a poem to that. So what is the definition of home? What is the definition of homeland from your perspective? Okay, so I'm gonna give you all about maybe 5 to 6 minutes to write some thoughts. So go for it. Okay, I got about 1 more minute if you want to wrap up that last thought, last line, last phrase. All right, if y'all want to slowly come back. And while you're doing that, if your pen's still going, like go for it, honor that. But we'll start chatting. Did anybody want to share either the definition of home or homeland or both, or what do y'all got?
If you would like to share your work, either use like the little hand feature or just say me in the chat and I'll find you and call you out. All right, Amy Lopez, let's do this. Amy, you are unmuted. At least I think you are. I'm trying to unmute you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh, okay. All right. So my name is Aime. So just fine. So home. Home is the smell of salsa verde y chapulines crujientes. It is the smell of handmade tortillas con frijoles negros. Home is my sacred space where I connect with my ancestors, where I cry to my abuela that visits me often from el más allá. Home is warmth. Home is love and peace. Homeland.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing.
Maria, would you like to go next?
It's funny. I didn't write too much. I have more questions. I really I just got a lot of questions in my head. Like the first one was like about a homeland. Are we ever at home? That's the first question. And the other one, it's not a question, it's actually just a thought. Rather than cultivating roots, I would cultivate elsewhere.
Thank you. And I think that's perfectly okay that your approach is through a series of questions or statements. Because the beauty of this workshop is to be in discussion that there's no clear definition of home. Home can be nomadic, home can be temporary, and home can represent the spaces where we get to learn who we are and the spaces where we learn we don't belong, right? So I love that your approach is like this questioning of the term that has these very traditional, conventional understandings, but also saying, it's nomadic. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Ariel, would you like to go? I've unmuted Ariel.
Perfect. Cool. I don't know if it's valuable to say or not, but this took me like not even the first 10 seconds after you posed the question, and I was surprised because I don't think about this often. So I just wrote that home is a breath in and homeland is my breath out. And I kind of totally am relating to the both priors to do with smells and like whether or not it really matters. It's kind of, yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. And again, this home is a definition where the heart is beating, right? And where it's active and the lungs are active. So I appreciate that definition of home and homeland. Thank you. Maybe we could do one or two more.
It looks like Vanessa would like to share. Vanessa, you are up.
So my definition of home is home, the feeling of peace, where I remove the burdens of the outside world, take a deep exhale, and feel the most authentic, naked version of myself. Home is the space I create in myself, in my deep relationships, and in nature, which is the first home that my soul has ever known.
Beautiful. Thank you. Cool. Good. So I love how now home is being interpreted on like what the body holds within, right? And it's not a materialistic piece of architecture, but more of what the self holds in connection to the natural elements of the earth and our ancestors and so forth. Beautiful. Thank you. Maybe we could get one more before we move on.
We need another volunteer.
If any, if not, I'm good to keep going. Oh, we got one.
Yeah, James, awesome.
Cool.
You are, oops, I just remuted you. My bad.
Okay.
There we go.
I wasn't sure if I was supposed to mute myself. Okay, cool. Thank you. Hi, I'm Jamie. He, him, his. So I ended up writing like a poem, so I'll just go into it. Home is a feeling. It is dry desert heat, no AC, sweat rolling down the cheek until it drops off the chin to splash open its own puddle. Home is the sound of seagulls 10 miles inland, the wafting of the salty mist 27 miles in, strip malls of boba shops and burrito places. The homeland is an entity. It is an origin out of reach. It is without hyphen and without me. It is the farmland that feeds me, the seas that deliver me away.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Dang.
Good. And I love the attention to one of the most powerful things we can utilize in like telling a story is the five senses, right? And so we have the sound of the seagulls, right? And that's the musicality of what defines home. We have taste, the saltiness of like ocean correlated to seagulls and so forth. So I love that we're using the five senses to tap in to that. So as we move forward, I want us to think of home and homeland as space. Space does not, we do space a big favor. Space does not become humanized until we enter those places. Sometimes when we enter places, that is when we leave our initial memory. These can be the ghosts that stay lingering, and these can be the joys that can be found within the furniture, on a picture frame, as we step outside onto the soil, as we make our way through the wet grass. And so when we move through space, these are going to be the places we humanize memory. And so as we move forward, I want us to think of home and homeland with two approaches on how we'll introduce some new prompts. Also keep in mind that this is a very limited perspective on how to think about home and homeland, because we can talk for a year about different ways of engaging with homeland and home. But for today, I want us to think micro. So micro, when I say micro, what are we sitting on? What can our toes and feet feel on the carpet, the cold floor? What color are the walls? What sits on our shelves? What is inside of our house? What room are we in? And those are going to be the micro, the interior, excuse me, I can talk, but the interior of inside of architecture. And that could be anything. That could be inside of a home, an apartment, a condo, your friend's house, the couch, your couch surfing, because sometimes home can be nomadic, right? The second way we're going to think about home is through homeland, the macro understanding, which is going to be the landscape that we step on outside of our conventional or non-conventional understanding of home. That can be the earth, the land, the sky, the trees, the stores we go to, the mountains, the hikes, and so forth. So we're going to start from the micro, which is inside of where we are at now, and end today's workshop with going into the macro, stepping onto the land that our ancestors have left, having us think about that space, home and homeland change based on political climate. That then defines the morals and values of our upbringing. Home and homeland, right now more than ever for us in present day, is in the middle of evolving and transforming because of COVID-19. Home is transforming and evolving for some people as a place of refuge, as a place of sanctuary, and sometimes as a place of confinement and as a place of imprisonment. So I want us to think about how space, depending on political climate, can alter our understandings of that intimacy. So the next prompt I want us to jump into is now the micro, the most intimate interaction within the space you are in right now, or you can jump in your head into another room. So prompt number 2 is the following. I want you to spot one item in a common area of your space or home. So it could be right now in the very room you're in, or something that calls to you outside of the room. Your next step is, I want you to choose that the item that you choose has to be an item that you've overlooked. You've taken advantage of it. You just know it's there. You need it for a reason, but you don't honor it. Especially now that we're like under this quarantine social distancing, you can now have a moment to give it life again. But your challenge is in choosing that object, if you can give that object a voice, what would it say? Okay, so think about the item that you have overlooked inside of your home, inside of the very room that you are in. If y'all can give it a voice, what would it say to you? I'm gonna give y'all about 8 minutes. See what y'all can come up with, okay? Give it a try. Okay, y'all have about 1 more minute. All right, if y'all want to slowly come back, and again, I want to honor if y'all are still writing, still write. If y'all aren't done, that's okay too. This is something y'all can develop later, but you have something to work with. So let's go back and see if anybody wants to share a little bit about what they wrote, read a few lines, read the whole thing, talk about what you wrote about. Totally open, just do your little wave hand thing so Daniel can get you.
Yeah, let's start with Fox.
Okay, I think you can hear me.
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Fox, she, her, hers. I chose to write about the dining room table right beside me that is currently covered in boxes and stuff. We just got the opportunity last week to have our friends who live downstairs come up for dinner while we're all isolated together, and it was my first time like sharing a meal around a table in like 3 or 4 years. So it was a pretty magical feeling. So I wrote about that. I am so happy you are here with me, with candles lit and cups of tea, with bellies full and oven off. I am more than a surface upon which you empty your tired hands and use as a plant stand. I am a circle cast, awaiting your fullest presence, to believe in tomorrow, to make tomorrow so, to be grateful for now, and to let now know.
Nicely done. Thank you. Good.
Thanks for listening.
Good. Yeah. And I love the details. I love everything that's on the, placed on the table, all the textures, and the authenticity of the voice that gets to speak through your dining table. Nicely done. Awesome.
Cool. How about M. Gal?
Okay, hi. So for context, I have 2 older brothers, and I guess I now occupy my oldest brother's room, but he's married and he moved out a while ago. So yeah, so I chose an item in this room. I'll just read it. Long time no see. Do or do not. There is no try. I knew you would forget about me. A small Yoda bobblehead in the corner of this room. You gifted your oldest brother, David, years ago, and he hasn't lived in this room for ages. And now I am a reminder of him moving out, of childhood, of your friend Anais, who lives states apart in Chicago, of your nerdy ex-lovers, particularly that one Childish Gambino song, Pink Toes, that you and him would sing together. I'm sorry that I also remind you of all of them, those boys, capital T, capital B. I've seen you combust and cry in this room, sequestered away from all your family, but I see you and I've watched you, and just because your brother didn't take me with him does not mean he would forget you, and just because Anais is now states away doesn't mean you don't matter, and just because your exes are exes doesn't mean that they also can't be O's. The dark side beckons you, but I have faith that you will not give in, and as always, may the force be with you.
Nicely done. Love it. Nicely done. And I love how your object becomes a talisman that kind of extends to telling the truth. There it is. Oh, yes. Awesome. How objects can be talismans for the extended conversation of how they can witness the self as well. And I love that part. There's a beautiful poet, her name's Rachel McGivens, and she talks about how inanimate objects can also witness, not just humans. Objects can also witness history, heartbreak, joy, celebration. Gwendolyn Brooks, another poet, says, how do we give things a facelift in language? And we do that by reinventing perspective. So when we don't have the voice to say it, let something else speak for you. And that sometimes can be the portal into connecting to self again. Because sometimes we don't know how to start it from the internalization of our bodies, but we can hand that over to an object that can start that conversation for us. So thank you, Yoda. Nicely done. All right, anybody else want to share another piece? Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah, Nicolette, Daskalakis, let's do it.
Awesome.
You should be unmuted now.
Unmute myself. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey. Okay, so I chose to write about the sweaters that my grandmother knit for my sister and I, that we've grown out of, but have just been sitting in the closet for years. I am trying to remember the bodies I once fit, wondering if I withered and shrunk, or if they grew too large and forgot me. I'm trying to remember their skin, how my body could warm them, how I could dance up their arms around their chest and just hold them against the cold, how I braced my buttons for the San Francisco fog, how it wet my wrists when the rain came, the sensation of being pulled off, thrown on the speckled linoleum of the kitchen, picked up by loving hands and hung. I am trying to remember. I am trying to decide if it's my fault.
Yeah. Killer last line. Nicely done. Thank you. Good. Trying to remember the bodies I once fit. Beautiful line. And I love how sincere and apologetic this sweater is. Who would have thought? Y'all, sweaters got feelings. Thank you for sharing. Yes. All right. If anybody else wants to do another, I'm so excited to hear another.
Let's do Alex.
Thanks for this opportunity. I'll have you guess what it is that I say at the end. Dearest Alex, after 2 accidents in 1 year, acupuncture, stretches, pills, doctor's visits, tears, and frustrations, physical therapy has finally said you have been cleared. It's time to play me. Why am I still collecting dust? Why are these heads so quiet? Why have you not picked up these sticks, squeezed them in your hands, and pelted me with your rage? I've always been here for your release. I've always been here for your creative adventures. I've always been here in this living room, taking up so much space for you to still hold back and forget me. You know all of this. You miss me, I know, and your body is relearning itself again. I know you're scared. You don't have the rhythm you had before. I'm still here to show you the rhythm you have now is still a means to begin. Explore new heartbeats with me. Lay your arms on me. Release all this uncertainty and let my heartbeat come alive again. I am not dead, and thankfully you are not either, but I'm only alive when you connect with me. So please sit in this throne and breathe a beat with me. Pick up those sticks and feel the hum vibrate from soul to snare. Dance feet with kick pedals. Let the hi-hat laugh again and the bass drum coo you again. Go wild on the crash, ride the ride, as only your mind magic knows how to. Let the toms take you to ancestral places. Let me be your piece from the past. Let's rage, setting fire to the past. There's still fire in you, I just know it. So much ferocious love. Your beast pet drum set.
Hey, excellent, love it. So one of my favorite things that you've done in this piece that I also encourage others to try is that it's an instructional poem. So instructional poems are super exciting because the object gets to speak and tell you how to engage with it. And so you have this really nice moment where it's almost music also as the drums are taking place, on how to approach it and how to use it, and how to be intimate with it. And so, yeah, thank you for sharing that. Awesome. All right, y'all. Are we ready to move on to our next prompt? Y'all good? Can we get some virtual thumbs ups out in the world? Okay, yay. Okay, cool. So now that we have engaged with an object, do y'all know what that device is called when we give inanimate objects voice? Anybody know? Y'all can throw it in the chat. Okay, beautiful. Yay, thank you, Ariel. Yeah, personification. Okay, y'all nailed it. Okay, cool, right? And so that can be one of our strongest methods on how we tell a story is let other things speak for you. It gives them an ability to have a voice, to be born again. And some poets would argue, you know, you're less greedy when you give voice to other things that won't have the opportunity to speak. So personification can be a really powerful way to give someone an invitation into a piece of yourself. So the next thing I want us to do is now visualize ourselves going outside of the room we are currently in, or to now walk around, not literally, but in your head, walk around your home and think of your home as blueprints. So you're thinking right now in your head the blueprints of your home. You could see all the rooms. Maybe it's only one room, but in that space you have different designated areas to do different things. Your challenge for this new prompt is you have to invite a minimum of one person into what you're going to write or more. So that means family or friends that normally would be present in the prompt I'm about to offer you. So prompt number 3 is the following. What's a household story you can't get away from? Okay. This can mean what brings you joy, and this can mean resurrecting a few ghosts. Okay. Write about a story that is repeated where you live. What happens? Okay. So you could talk about certain rituals that take place before you go to bed, rituals that take place when you're about to sit down to have dinner with your family, rituals of in the backyard, inside of a garage. So, you know, I write a lot about prayer, and that prayer growing up for me was like my mother made us all pray in the same pinchy room, and we all had the rosaries, and we were all saying, you know, all our prayers to La Virgen. And so that was our ritual, and I can walk you through that, right? So I want you to think of a moment, and I can repeat it, and then I'll give us about eight minutes again to write. So what's a household story you can't get away from? It could be a story that brings joy, or it could be a story that resurrects or summons a few ghosts. Write about a story that is repeated where you live or was once repeated. Talk about what happens, right? Y'all got like 8 minutes. Go for it. See what you come up with. All right, y'all have about 1 more minute. All right, if y'all want to make the return, and ready to hear a few. So if y'all want to chime in and share what y'all wrote, again, it doesn't have to be complete. This is just super, super rough draft, but let's hear what y'all got. So maybe just throw a little shout out at Daniel and he'll get you.
Who would like to go? Rosie, I know you had your hand up last time. Do you wanna opt in this time? You vibing that?
Sure.
Tight.
What I a ritual that I thought of was Thanksgiving, and seeing my in-laws come together to cook the meal. It's not a traditional meal that we cook, but here it goes. It's Thanksgiving again, but it's not a day to celebrate colonization. It's to celebrate that we are here taking up space, even though some don't want us here. It's to celebrate that we built a life far away from a border that didn't welcome us. The celebration includes moving furniture to make room for all the familia to squeeze in. It is chopping the turkey into pieces because we don't make turkey like the rest. It's cooking the spices for the mole. It's browning the rice before the water. It's waiting for my tia to bring the flan. It's about celebrating all they couldn't take away from us.
Hey, come on now. Okay, so you have to check out, he's our ex-poet laureate, Richard Blanco's poem called America. And you're doing the exact same thing that he's up to, is that he creates these Polaroid pictures of these contradictions of the American Thanksgiving versus the authenticity of like your cultura. So you gotta check that poem out. Beautifully done.
Thank you.
Waiting for the tia to bring the flan. Come on now. All right, y'all. Thank you for sharing. All right, anybody want to read another one?
Let's do it, Jaime.
Okay, I have to go right after this because I have another meeting, but I'll read it. I wasn't sure. I don't know if I wrote it right, but I was thinking of my room and something that I started doing now to get rid of emotions that come from it. I am restless. I feel the bed inviting me to sleep, the sounds of the ocean that I play on my headspace. Yet your voice is louder. Your anger makes the house shake. The walls stay quiet when you enter the room, but your body doesn't walk these floors no more. It's my mind that keeps reviving your madness into this room. You wild warrior that I once loved, the one that secured me whole and cut my wings to keep me grounded in this cold and empty space. How do I tell my mind to let you go? How do I remind her that you can't hurt us anymore? I look at the ceiling and say my prayers. I ask my abuela to give me strength to remind my body, my soul, and my mind that you don't exist anymore. I breathe in the love and exhale the fear. I now stand in my strength and my power, and I am whole again. I am magic, and I reclaim my home one more time so that you don't come back because I am the owner now.
Hey, and thank you for hanging out. I didn't even think about how prayer can even harness someone into a room, into a space. So I love that your abuela gets to make it into the piece. So thank you for sharing. And I love that you start with sound, which is such a beautiful way of like introducing a choir that exists in the space. So thank you for hanging out, and thank you for sharing.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right. Y'all want to go share another one? Let's do it.
All right, Harmony. Let's hear it.
Oh, okay. Hi.
Hi.
Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, basically, I don't know if I did this right either. But pretty much just like on Sunday mornings, me and my baby brother like cut strawberries and eat them. So this is what I made real quick. Warm sunrise, expose clouds of dust. This is the only room in the house that gets sun. Enclosed by the width of my two stretched out arms, it is a small and welcoming kitchen. Glistening marble countertops are met with strawberries and the sweet hum of the soft birds outside. While the house sleeps, my brother's eyes light up as the whole strawberries are cut into bite-sized pieces for his delicate and small mouth. It is secure here, safe. In this moment, we are only children consuming the earth and consuming the energy of the morning to come.
Yay, nicely done. I love it. I love how safe the characters feel, and at the same time, I love how violent it is. And it is the strawberry that encounters the most violence in the name of keeping your characters safe, your brother and the speaker. So thank you for sharing. And one of my favorite things that I love that y'all have been doing, which is my favorite, is when you say, I don't know if I did this right. That's a great answer because we offer a prompt, but shape it and sculpt it into your own, right? And so then there's that fear of like manipulating it to fit your own narrative that you're like, did I do it right? Fuck yeah, you did it right. You made it your own, and you let that you spoke from that space. So thank you for sharing. Do we want to share one more, or do we want to jump into our final prompt? What do y'all want to do?
Wendy would like to read.
Please, Wendy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I didn't finish my poem. So my poem is I need to give like a background because I didn't finish. So like when I was in high school, I was outed like for being bi, and I kind of pretended that I wasn't bi. So like I'm still like in the closet now, even though I was outed originally. So this is like I did the prompt differently because I did it differently. So this is me inviting like somebody that I like, a girl that I have romantic feelings, into my house and explaining why I can't date her. So it goes like this. Bienvenido, welcome to my house. That's mommy's room in front of the entrance. Follow me into the kitchen. The sink is where I realized I was bit by and told Karla, would you like something to drink? Coffee? Some water? No? Okay. Follow me into the living room. This couch is where I used to sit with my best friend after she stopped being allowed upstairs. Let me show you upstairs. And then I didn't finish it, but like I wanted to share that.
It's all good. Nicely done. Good. One of my favorite parts about this piece. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah. Can you hear us? Oh, you froze. Oh no. Karla. A brief pause while we wait for Karla to come back.
Daniel, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
So are you a poet? Like what's your deal?
I'm not a poet. I'm a writer of mostly nonfiction, and I am a book publisher. So I started this book publishing company called Notacult like 4 years ago. And so I work with a lot of poets, and I really love poetry and working with poets.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I love a lot of the books you guys publish. I just read Dante's book.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. That's a dope.
Yeah.
Hi, welcome back, Karla.
Thanks, everybody. Sorry about that. Wendy, awesome job. I love that you are a tour guide inside of the poem and that you welcome someone in and give them the tour of all the important spaces that you navigate through. So thank you. All right, y'all. So I want to offer the last prompt. And then if you allow it, if y'all want to ask a few questions that you have for Daniel or myself, that would be great. The last prompt I want to offer you today is to think about the macro version of home, in this case, the homeland. So a poet, his name is John Sands. John Sands talks about how all writers are the ambassadors of oh, sorry. Hey, I'm in a workshop right now. Oh, sorry, my bad. Sorry, y'all, my niece is sleeping and the mom's like, hey, you're too loud. Okay, anyway. So John Sands talks about how we are all the ambassadors of our cultural realities, and we are the ambassadors of imagination. So what that means is we as writers become the architects through language and imagination to have people understand our cultura, our culture, the landscape in which our ancestors come from and the landscape in which we and our families navigate through. So one of my favorite poems that I've read so many from different versions is when you go to a new place, or you're new in town, or it's your first day of school, and people are like, yo, so where you from, right? And you have to make a decision on how you're going to answer. And sometimes those answers are really complicated. And sometimes those answers can feel limited because you're not honoring the complete existence of your homeland. So seeking inspiration from Willie Perdomo, he's a Def Jam poet, New Eurekan poet. He wrote a poem called Where I'm From. In the poem, a woman asks him, like, yo, where are you from? And Perdomo writes this beautiful poetic piece on the celebrations and the oppressions of the homeland, because he needs to do it justice, right? He can't just be like, oh, I'm from New York. Like, he needs to deconstruct what that means and the importance of those images. So your objective is using the opening phrases. And these phrases are inspired from different poems that approached the same prompt. The poets where the inspiration is coming from is Willie Perdomo, another awesome poet, her name is Sarah Borgas, she's from Fresno, and Jessica Salgado. So the opening lines for your prompt are the following, and you can choose one. What I know is your first opening. Or you can choose where I'm from. Or you could choose the third, which is what was my approach in telling my story, is my city is. Okay, so I'm gonna give y'all maybe 6-7 minutes so we can have a little time after to share. You can approach this in a couple ways. You can make a list. So in Jessica Salgado's poem in Corazon called What I Know, she does a number list. She says 1, Melrose and Fairfax, 2, CVS and Rite Aid, right? So you can do that. Make really long lines, or you can create small stanzas, which are a couple lines, a little paragraph, and capture a photograph of the homeland, one image at a time, okay? And I'll type that on the chat. So I'll give you some time to do that now. 6 to 7 minutes. See what did you come up with regarding your interpretation of homeland. All right, you have about 1 more minute. All right, if y'all are ready, you want to slowly come back. Let's have a few folks share before we have some closing comments for the day. Anybody out there want to share a few lines?
I do.
Yeah.
Who said I do? I can't see.
I'm on my phone. It's Estella. I'm not sure if I could share.
Hi, Estella. Let's do it. We'll start with you.
All right. What I know. What I know is where I first started is not really who I am. I was born on a street that's full of stars. Sunset Boulevard, the 60s, a time of freedom and undone hair. The memories of East LA are made of dirt that I molded into cookies and castles. What I know is that Lincoln Heights was my place I called Shangri-La, made of beautiful emerald green hills where coyotes and dogs ran. What I know is I was poor as hell, but I went to Tijuana to be reminded of my heaven. What I know is where I'm from, people laugh easy, call you a nickname, and you better answer or be called something else instead. What I know is that I'm miles away in distance, but living there, I am still in my own deep love consciousness. And what I am certain of is that you can rip it all off of me, my purse, my wallet, my shoes, but my childhood self will always be willing to run wild in those hills of East LA.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. I love the juxtaposition of unknown freedoms and messy hair and a lot of awesome, strong images. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else out there want to spit some lines?
How about Sally Familia? Let's do Sally. You are unmuted, Sally.
Hi, I'm not showing my face because I look a little crazy, but I didn't write much, but I started with what I know. So what I know is how to make love to a bacon, egg, and cheese with a cotton tongue, how to greet a neighbor with silence, the emergence of a life between walls. I evoke MTA instructions like affirmations. So I'm gonna work on this afterward, but I'm from New York City if it's not obvious.
Good. That was awesome. Thank you for sharing. Good. I love that we're starting with something specific and you're like on the verge of branching out. Awesome. Thank you. Maybe one or two more.
All right, Vanessa Grant Coates.
Awesome.
You are unmuted.
I already shared this, so if anyone wants to go that hasn't shared, I'd like to open that for them too.
That's very kind. How about, I don't see a name here, I just see an email, but bdelf002@ucr.edu. I don't think you went, so let's unmute you. And
hi.
Hi.
Thank you, Karla, for this beautiful workshop. This is the first time I'm writing in a week, and so it's exciting. So I started my poem with what I know, and there's some Spanish mixed in here, which is the language of my hometown. What I know is windowed silence only breaks con el grito de una vaca, that I can reach every border of this town by foot. It is my grandmother walking past el sanatorio and all of us nietas owning the streets con nuestros cantos, que soy del barrio América, de la calle Paraguay, pegadita al río, la arboleda del Club 13, every image, cada recuerdo, giving language to my birth.
Nicely done. Thank you. Thank you. Window silence. What a great phrase. And I love the musicality of your code switching, which works real nice. So thank you so much for sharing. So we are down to 5 minutes. I want to honor everybody's time. If y'all have any questions for me or for Daniel, please shoot those out or just raise hand and we can get to those. Yeah, so screen or floor, whatever y'all want to use is yours. And then if nothing's popping up, let me know, Daniel.
It seems pretty chill so far. I don't see any immediate requests. Maybe now would be a good time for me to mention upcoming workshops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Solid. What is today even? What is time? Today's Friday. TGIF. Oh man, gonna go out and party hard tonight. So next week, we have so many workshops happening week 2 here. Karla is going to be doing another workshop this next Friday, buffet poems. So writing about food, particularly through a political lens, which I'm really thrilled to see what happens in that workshop. Wednesday, we have another workshop with Jessica Salgado. We did To the Bloom the first time this last Wednesday. We're doing it again this coming Wednesday. We also have a workshop with Jose Olivares, which is happening on Tuesday. That's going to be epic. We have a workshop with John Sands that's happening on Thursday. I haven't uploaded that onto the internet yet, but I'm about to. And then we have the Close Workshop series with Edwin Bodney on Monday. And all of these you can find at notacult.media/events. And we also have an Instagram, which is notacult.media. And that is all I can think about to say.
Awesome. And if y'all tune in on next week, Friday, buffet poems, writing about food in a political world, I'm encouraging y'all to bring and eat your favorite foods while we're running the workshop. So bring food that feels home, bring your fideo and your sandwiches and your hot Cheetos, and let's eat and write food poems. So I welcome that to the workshop next week, Friday. Aside from that, if you want to continue the conversation, please feel free to shoot me like poems, or if you want more prompts, at my Instagram, which is at Karla Flaca with a K 13. I want to continue to be a resource to y'all, so please feel free to reach out. If you also shout out to poet Gabriel Cortez from Youth Speaks, Vona alumni, what's up? He shared a lot of the prompts, inspired a lot of the prompts for today. So if y'all want the whole list, also shoot me a DM and I'd be happy to do that. And if there are not any further questions, I want to say thank you to you all for tuning in. This is what keeps me sane. So thank you for hanging out for 1 hour and 30 and listening to my absurdity of what language can do. I just want to leave you with some words of wisdom from the poet Jose Olivares. He will be doing a workshop, like Daniel said, on Tuesday, which I highly recommend. He has a wonderful book that came out not too long ago called Citizen Illegal, which is super killer. And on a tweet he posted, which us as writers need to think how we navigate productivity, especially now. And he says, quote, "I'm trying to resist the idea that there is some wrong way or right way to use my time. How can I understand productivity without linking it to capitalist product creation? A slow stretch is productive. Admiring the tree outside my window is productive." I'm gonna add to that line, Jose. Looking at the objects in your room that you have forgotten about and are covered in dust is productive. Holding the elements of within your home and outside of your home and honoring them is productive. So please continue to honor your productivity with giving life to things that we have forgotten about and write about them. So thank you all so much for hanging out. Daniel, if you got nothing else, I didn't wake up my niece in 1 hour and 30 minutes, so I feel like I'm super successful today. So thank you, everybody.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Karla. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Till next time.